Hey guys, it's Sunday the 14th, 2022. We're back. Thank you guys for joining us on the first video, and let's see how this goes.
Hey guys, it's Luis. Grateful to be back again here with Thomas. Which thank you for inviting me, man. Like I said, thank you for the opportunity to sit down here and pick your brain. But I was checking out your piece earlier. How long have you spent getting tattooed?
Jeez, I think it was I got the tattoos like fairly quick, but it was probably, I say, 48 hours worth of tattoos.
Okay. And when did you start getting tattooed?
God, I started getting tattooed. Unfortunately, guys, I got tattooed at the age of 13.
When'd you start so young?
I grew up in California and everything, and just ended up probably tattoos were probably just coming out. Like the first tattoo I ever got was Thomas on my chest, and it was done with a like a Walkman, and there's like a little motor in there, and you put it on the back of a spoon, and you bend a spoon, and then you put like a Papermate pen on there, and then you have a paper clip bent and connected to it. So there's a motor. All right, guys, let me explain to you just real quick. There's a Walkman. Inside of the Walkman, there's like a little round motor or whatever. You pull that motor out. If you get just a normal spoon silverware, you could bend the edge of that spoon or fork. You place the motor on top of that, and then you electrical tape that motor around there. Well, in your Walkman, there should be little wheels that are like plastic, so you could take those out. You take a paper clip, you burn the end of the paper clip, you poke it in as a little hole onto that wheel. Well, that wheel goes onto that, the wheel goes onto the motor, the paper clip goes into the hole, and you bend the paper clip so it goes into a Papermate pen, and that little ball of the Papermate pen you could pop out, and you could put like a super glue a tattoo needle onto that paper clip. So essentially, as it's going around the wheel, it goes down. It's a tattoo gun. So that's what we fooled around with. It was a homemade tattoo and everything.
Tell me, man. That's why I love asking you questions.
My God.
You always give me all the whole background, and I think that's why today's topic is going to be great to talk to you about, because we talked about it a little bit when I was in here for a haircut a couple days back, which is leading with love, right? And how once you switch your whole mentality as to how you're going to approach leadership and taking care of other people, your whole life takes a different step, And you're a guy that likes to go into the details. You're a guy that likes to tell us the background of everything. So I kind of want to know more about where you started to deviate from like your parents. I know you went into kind of like a different life that you ended up in, in jail and stuff. So I kind of want to know more about when you deviated from like being with your parents and being that kid that, because up to some point we all grew, like I have my little kids, up to some point they all grow up and they're with mom and dad. When did you pull apart from that to start making those type of different decisions and letting those influences come into your life?
Shout out to the greatest man on the planet. That's my grandfather, Eddie Veal, the fucking original. He's not around today, but when I started, I lived in California. I lived in a small town called Moreno Valley. I don't know if anyone knows where that is. It's within Riverside County, and so it was heavily gang populated. From a lot of gang members from LA were moving to Moreno Valley to get away from LA. It was probably a rough area. My parents were great people. My mother was beautiful. My father was amazing, and I think the outside influence in the 1990s in California was, big clothes, gangbanging, and all of that. And I think it just rubbed off. I was probably, at that age where I was seeking validation. It varies down to me where I'm a true believer in. I just hung out with the wrong crowd. I chose the wrong crowd. And I was always a doer, a little bit smarter. And so I used those in bad ways back then. And, getting into a lot of trouble. And, my parents had even sent me out to Chama, New Mexico out here for a summer. And I got away. I came out here and it was beautiful. But then, when I went back to California, I kind of fell back into that path of things of, stuff like that. And
okay. Yeah, man, and it's a lot of people go through that, where it's that sense to kind of fit in that kind of pushes them to do things that they're not fully comfortable with, right? And again, it pushes you away from that leading with love, because when you're doing things to fit in, when you're doing things to like please other people, it pulls you away from your authentic self. And you saw that going down the path because you, like you said, you started hanging out with the wrong people, making the wrong decisions. Talk to us about that last wrong decision that got you locked up and got you facing,
That's a
time.
great question, dude. That last wrong decision, and guys, I'm going to be real honest with you, and I'm sure my juvenile record is sealed by now, but it might not be. That wrong decision was, and I'm going to go ahead and name the names. There was a gentleman, a kid by the name of Randy. I think he was 15. Sammy Batista, which was a very good friend of mine, unfortunately, he was 15. And me, I was 15 years old. TJ Baca, 15 years old. There was an Asian girl. Her name was Faith. And when we would leave school at 2:30, we'd get off. We'd all go to Faith's house and hang out and everything. My dad would be home at 5:30, so I'd make sure to shuffle off and make it back home by then. Well, one day, me and Sammy had went ahead and left school, and we went ahead and ditched 6th period, and we're walking home, and Sammy says, hey, well, let's go to Faith's house. Her back door, how she even got in was just through the back door and everything. And unfortunately, the other guy, Randy, who had ditched all day, he came with us. We ended up walking. We walked from the high school to where her house was, which was a street away from my house, a block away from my house. And then we met up with Randy. We ended up, long story short, we ended up going into that house. Sammy Batista stole a carton of cigarettes out of the freezer. I don't know why they were in there, but he stole a carton of cigarettes out of the freezer. And the idiot Randy stole a necklace from the mom's room. Shitty ass shit. And so later on that evening, I don't even think anything of it. I knew that Sammy stole the cigarettes, but I really didn't know Randy was, but he was moving around, and it was just real ghetto, dude. And so long story short, I'm just at home. My father's there, my mother's there. We just got finished eating dinner and everything, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, and it's like, oh shit, nobody's really knocking on our door without calling and coming over, and so there was a knock, and it was, and all of a sudden it's 2 policemen. I'm just a kid, so I'm sitting on the couch. My father's the one to answering the door and everything, and there's 2 policemen there, and I could hear their radios, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, is this somehow related for me? And then it's like, sure enough, they come, I don't remember exactly how it went. I don't know if they questioned us or whatever, but they took all 3 of us. I saw Sammy and Randy were, when I was leaving to Juvenile Hall in the back of the cop car, I looked and I saw Sammy sitting in the back of the car. He was actually crying, and Randy was in the back of another cop car, and they took us to Juvenile Hall. My father was a different type of dude. There was zero. You had the utmost respect. So the thing is, what happened was when I went to Juvenile Hall, this is all the life-turning event that nobody knows about. When I went to Juvenile Hall, Sammy ended up. Sammy's mom came and got him right away, got him right out. Randy's mom and dad came and got him out. I stayed in Juvenile Hall. My parents did not want to come and get me out of jail. Shout out, Mom. I know you wanted to come and get me out of jail. She did. I love you, Mom. I swear to God, you wanted me out, and thank you. But you weren't. Father was gonna impose. Hey, you stay, and so he had the most integrity, and it was you stay. So unfortunately, dude, I made a very light situation very bad. My parents didn't come and get me. So I had a public defender. I showed up. They said, well, you can get out. Your parents just have to, come get you. And we tried to make calls. The father wasn't going to do that. Therefore, I ended up in court. They said you can either go to a placement program for 6 months, or for I think it was 8 months, or you can go to this boot camp for 6 months. And I said, oh fuck, I'll shoot for that boot camp. It's only 6 months. And this is in Idlewild. This is Twin Pines for anyone that wants to look it up. They're closed now, praise Jesus. And so you get screened. A big old dude that looks like you comes in, and he's only 17 somehow, and it's like that mother who's like, oh yeah, I mean, he's in an army suit, and he's like, oh, you're gonna come over and you won't have to go to juvenile jail and prison and all this other shit. It's like, oh yeah, I'll shoot for this. And as soon as I got there, I had a very rough time. The guys were 10 times my size. I was, getting my ass kicked a lot. I was just a skateboarder back then, a dork who was trying to find his way amongst cholos. And I wanted to be, liked and accepted. And so I ended up in that bad situation. There was a guy from LA, shout out Gutierrez, dude, straight up fucking down ass fool. and he came in from LA, and all of a sudden he was getting jumped because we were in Idlewild in Twin Pines, which is in the Inland Empire. So I wasn't a gang member back then, so I didn't know that IE was against LA, and I had to come find all this out. But LA dudes are really solid, but that one homie came over there, so they were jumping him a lot. So one day we went out to do something in the ranch, and because we made our own food there. There is a big old shitty ass place, and so I said, hey brother, damn dude, I said, you know, we're kind of both in a situation where it's like these fools just like don't like us and shit. It's like, would you be interested in dipping? Like, you want to just, you know, would you dip? And he was like, and he's all, fuck yeah. And I said, no way. It was almost like I was reborn that day for some odd reason. It was like, yes, my life, I'm going to fucking leave this spot. And so it was, and so that night, there was a bigger dude from Corona Vatos Locos, CVL or whatever, big old dude. And he said, hey Holmes, and I left him some of my shit. And he says, hey, he drew me a little map and said, hey, you got to get down that mountain in Idlewild. This is how you get out of here. And one dude was like, oh, you could steal a car, stab her. I said, I'm not picking up any more crimes along the road. I just want to get the fuck out of here, dude. And so it was like, and so we did. We escaped. I made an unfortunate situation of, and I'll go, look, just the quick version is, we left the facility that night when they all lined up. You had to get onto everyone had to stand up with their hands like this, and then you had to fall into order, and you had to walk, and so it was like those fools did that, and we hid under our bunks. Like, we were laying under our bunks and everything, and like I was already scared then, because I was like, oh, quiet as a church mouse. I was like, damn, if they see us under the bunks, they're gonna know that we're. I was like, fuck. So I'm just under the bunk, and that homie is still, and then everyone's gone, and it's like, so I rolled out from underneath the bed. And I was like, hey, and then he's all, yeah, and we got dressed real quick. I grabbed all my letters, which was weird, and I shoved them in my, you know, pants right here, and we proceeded down the mountain. That night, we made it to the mountain. It was so fucking dark at night that you couldn't see a step in front of you. So we had to sit where we were at that point. We could not walk anymore, and the jungle was so dense. This is Idlewild, California, on the top of the mountain where Twin Pines was. There's going to be someone on my YouTube that'll do that research. Do it, dude. I'll show you how sick that terrain was. Not to mention we had fucking nothing to drink or eat. And so we had to damn near put a jacket and sit there and breathe to be able to survive that night. When we woke up in the morning, dude, I looked and we were on the edge of a fucking cliff. If we would have took 2 more steps, we would have been dead. We would have been fucked up immensely. And so, and just even quicker, longer story short, all of that happens. We make it down the hill. There's a big old, as soon as we make it down the hill, there's like, we reroute and we go down this hill. We slide on these rocks. We make it down. And then there's like a big old, like, whole mile to get to a road, dude. And so we're gassed by then. And we get over there. And then there's a sign of a guy going like that. Do not pick up hitchhikers. Long story short, I'm really good at talking. We ran into it. We knocked on a door. We spun a story that some chick, she kicked us out of the car, and we're fighting. And he's like, "Are you sure you're not?" And it's like, "Oh no, we don't even know what that is." And it was like, so they drove us back to Moreno Valley. That homie was so adamant about going to LA that he had his cousin already picking him up in Moreno Valley and taking him to LA. I made a call, and I ended up just getting, you know, I don't want to go into details on how I ended up getting arrested, but I did get, I got arrested the following day. No more new charges, nothing like that. Someone had called, told. They came over to the neighbor's house that I was at, and they picked me up, they took me to jail, and they gave me one more shot at another placement in Orange County. I showed up there, got into fights every day. I guess I was from Riverside, so I was a river rat, so to speak, and they were from Orange County, didn't get along with Riverside. The supervisor called me in and said, hey, I'm gonna have to transport you back to Riverside Juvenile Hall. I went back to Riverside Juvenile Hall, went back to court. They said, well, you're going to go to California Youth Authority, which is juvenile prison. Some big old buff dude, there was some cholo was in there from LA, and he's all, hey, Holmes, you can just go to adult, and they'll only, for 6 months, or not, I think it was 90 days or 6 months that I did. They're all, you can go to adult, and on your 18th birthday, since I was turning 18 in like another month, they're like, you could sign up for the program to just go to the adult, and they'll only hold you for 90 days. If you go to CYA, you'll be stuck there until you're 21. So I just signed over and went to the adult facility, and that's, you know, that was kind of the juvenile. Once I went to the adult facility and did the 90 days in that jail, or I think 6 months. I think it was 90 days. I did 90 days in there, and then I flew directly out to Albuquerque.
Damn. Well, that was a lot, but a few takeaways that I really took away from that. One, he had an idea of who he was at the beginning. He said it himself, I was just a skater boy trying to fit in, right? This dorky kid. When you start living by the inauthentic self, trying to fit in with other people, and you start to pull away from who you know you are, look at the spiral that follows, right? 2, his dad, leaving him in there, you know, and for him, it sounded tough at the time, but I hear it and I say, well, as somebody that grew up without a dad, right, all of my discipline has been self-imposed. And I went through a lot of mistakes and stuff like that before I caught on, like, hey, I gotta do this shit for me, right? You had somebody external, you had that masculine energy telling you, hey, sit in your shit and smell it for a little bit so that you can deal with it, right? And I think that was the biggest factor, right? Because it put you on a track where you had to start dealing with your own problems, and you really realized, like, shit, like, something that could have been so small became so big, but it's because I gotta deal with it on my own now, right? So, and I think your dad did it from a place of love, like, you know what? If that's the life you want to live, I can't tolerate it because that's not who we are, right? Like you said, he was always of the superior integrity, so he couldn't let that slide, right? But you going through all that, man, through that wake-up call, like, it's in the process that you learn all these lessons, right? And your dad could sit there and tell you all day, but it was in that process of, you know, having to run away, having to try to fit in, having to, you know, get caught again, and just sitting in that and having to make all these choices and watching everything kind of spiral out of your control. And it's like, oh, these guys don't even like me because I'm from here, these guys, and you just can't go back to that authentic self, right? Because the further you stray away from it and you let the world just kind of pull you away, the harder it is to come back. So when you finally come back to it, look at the drastic change in his life. You know, he goes from all this stuff kind of spiraling out of control, kind of going just, in a sense, with the flow. It's like, hey, my environment was pulling me this way, and my friends were pulling me that way, and I knew who I was inside, but I was getting pulled all kinds of different directions. To now, he's sitting here, you know, providing a service for people, succeeding, taking his life to the next level, and then extending that hand and helping others do the same, right? So there's a change that goes on in your mind when you start to lead with love and you start to stay true to yourself. Because when he came out to Albuquerque, were you still getting in trouble then as well, or?
It spiraled even
For a
worse.
while,
It just,
yeah.
it ramped into everything. The juvenile gave me the, you know, you didn't have the direction, you know what I mean? And yeah, it spiraled. It went into prison, so it was,
Right.
you know, once I got out here and everything.
When did you make that choice, like, for good? All right, I'm done.
Once I went to prison.
Once you went to prison?
That was, so I'm a big believer in that some guys are very intelligent. You'll get in trouble once and it's over. It took me really, you know, getting that 10 years. Once I got that 10 years and I sat in there, you know, for that long, you know, and, you know, started to get a little bit older too. I moved real quick as a youngster, so it was like, you know, real quick to make decisions. And so it's, you know, as you started gaining age and wisdom, and really it took going to prison, you know, that type of, you know, to bring me out of it.
Yeah. And what I like about what you did with your time in prison is you didn't just fucking sit there. You know, one, you found something that you liked and you were good at. You started cutting hair. You started doing your best at it. And you just started showing up and doing it every day, even in prison, right? It's like Wes Watson and all these guys says. It's like when you're in there, you start to find out who you are, right? Because you're faced with what? Yourself. And that's the lesson your dad was trying to teach you when you were 15. Sit in here yourself, you know, and I know he was hoping it would have a bigger impact, but then, you know, life had to come back and do it again tenfold with 10 years. And hey, sit in here by yourself and then really face what's in there. And you came out the other side a winner, right? Because you decided to what? Love yourself. You say, hey, that's enough. That's not who I am. I'm good at doing other things, man. And the way you've turned your life around, I think it's freaking amazing, man. Because you went from doing all that and letting the world pull you apart to, hey, man, this is what I do, and hey, let me help you, man. Hey, all these guys that come in and get their haircuts literally weekly with you, you know, is because they recognize the passion to the craft and the passion to your dream, man. So it shows, and I think you're a perfect example of what it means to lead with love. Because once you made that switch, it became bigger than you know. And then, I mean, and you can attest to it because I've seen the shop grow. You know, life rewarded you. So.
And life only rewarded me when I started doing the right thing. As you know, Luis says, when I was doing the wrong thing and you weren't, you were taking until you give. That's when you build. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, and that was probably hard. and patience is a virtue and everything too is a big, part of me moving forward. And really, guys, like can't stress this enough. It's show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So I mean, when you're hanging around with shit, you smell like shit. You gotta be around positivity and put the work in, and it's like, I don't know. I really think about it and say, damn, I wonder how. I don't really know how it transferred for me. It was just, God, it was you had enough of being locked up. It was,
It was the fact that you. For me, I think it's the work. It's the work and it's the process, right? He had no choice but to show up every day, right? And that's what we all need to do, right? Once you in your mind, you make it your only choice. Whatever it is that you're doing, you make that your only choice, and you show up every day, everything follows. In the process, you find your passion. In the process, you find your love. In the process, you get good at your craft. And once you become all these things, then you're valuable and the world starts to reward you back, right? But you gotta become first, and it's in the process that you become that person. And for Thomas, it's like, yeah, maybe you didn't have a choice, but a lot of guys don't come out on top when they come out.
I never
They
put
go
the
right
work
back.
in. I was lazy. And that was another thing. You never put the work in, you were lazy. It's like you at your fucking job, like all of you guys, like sitting around, it's like making $16 an hour, but you're not putting the work in to make more than that. Motherfuckers that want vacations and all this other shit, and you haven't deserved that yet. I haven't taken a vacation. I've worked for 3.5 years straight. But guess what? Once it hits the 4th year, then I might deserve a tiny bit of a vacation. But, I had to instill that superior dedication to, what it is that I'm building and doing and everything else. Look, guys, the clients will sniff it out. It's really easy to say for barbering. It's like they know when you're passionate about something and they know when you're just getting a haircut in and out. It's almost like, it's like, damn, it's just, these guys understand what the detail is and how much you put into your craft. And you guys can all do the same thing. Put the work in. Look, find something you like to do and start to build a passion for it and put the work in.
And you don't have to go to prison to make it your only option. You could literally flip the switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mentally, right? And make it your only option and get after it. Because once it became Thomas's only option, not only did he get really good at it, but he found the passion behind it. It's like, fuck, I'm good at this. Damn, I could do this better than everybody else, and it takes me places. It literally takes me from the yard to the guard's room to the sheriff's office to the warden, and it's opening doors for me that I didn't even know, right? So once you focus on the work, your gift will open doors for you. So just focus on the work first, focus on the process, don't worry about anybody else. Stay true to what you know to be true to yourself so that you can catch the shit before it spirals out of control. But when you get those lessons, face them and always default back to the work, because I feel like all these lessons in life always teach us the same thing, where it's like you got to go back to doing the things that you should be doing. The right thing to do is always the right thing to do, and once you catch on to that, I feel like that's law, and life rewards you. You know what I mean? No matter what you believe in, the right thing to do is the right thing to do, and once you adapt to that, your life skyrockets, man, and it's obvious. So I think it's friggin' awesome.
And guys, never let your past determine your future. That's the thing. Look at me. I mean, my past was atrocious. It sure as hell didn't determine the future. So I'm just saying anybody can switch it around. It just, you start immediately. You start with, positive thinking, get a direction of where you want to go. If, you want to open your own business, then look at me, I did it. I mean, and how would I do it? Look, I got a building and everything, and I'm a convicted felon, and all of those were myths. I got buddies that are attorneys and that are also were in prison. So it's, there's no excuse at all. I mean, that's another, you guys should be, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's the thing. Without a doubt. Oh yeah, and shout out to this Monster Energy right here. Like, this is straight fire. Like, I like these drinks a lot. Look, he's cracking one open. This is what gets me through the day barbering and everything. This is, allows me to focus and everything else. And it's healthy for you, so that's pretty elite.
I do the low carb one right now because I'm carb cycling, but, it still works, so it's freaking awesome. Shout out Thomas, too, for hosting us and for having us out here, man. I couldn't have said it any better myself, man. I think stories stories speak louder than anything else, you know, and you have all that experience that really, I think people can relate to, because you've been through it, you've lived it firsthand, you know. So thank you for that. Thank you for opening up with me. Thank you
Yeah,
for
I
sharing.
appreciate it, guys, and thank you for stay tuned and like, comment, subscribe. If you want to hear any stories of anything or you want to hear anything, we're going to be doing this every week, and then soon we're going to be doing it more than that. Make sure to, Luis, what is your Instagram again so they can follow
It's
you?
at Luis_Baca, but for the L in Luis, it's a number 1 instead of a now. It's that simple.
And I'm thomasbacabarber on Instagram, and the buddy Donald Sanchez is having a fight for bare knuckle August 27th. You guys make sure to go to his Instagram, Donald Sanchez 45, and if you guys want tickets, the link is in his bio and everything, and you guys can click and do all that, and we'll see you guys later.